Okay, welcome back for the third part of One Man's Faith. We're looking at Numbers. We're getting ready to kind of jump in, and we will be reading here in just a minute. And so God provides for them. He provides food and water. Their clothing didn't wear out. There was no sickness. There was no disease, no famine, no drought, no pestilence, because God was with them. Listen, that hadn't changed. God is with us. The biggest difference is He now lives in us, not just with us. And our new covenant is only better than the original covenant because it's based on better promises. He said He will never leave us. He will not forsake us. He will make provision for us. He will give to us more as we give to Him. He says He will supply all our needs according to His riches and all our needs. Oh, but I don't believe that. I know, that's the problem. Listen, we've got to see, we've got to change this thing here between our ears to see what God has said and go with what God has said. Okay? So now, as we get into Numbers, the first thing that happens is God said, I want you to number the people. I want you to number the men 20 years and older, the fighting men out of each tribe. They did that. They came up with 603,550 men, I'll say, of battle age, battle ready. Okay? Chapter 2 goes into how they were to camp. You know, I told you, they had three tribes on each side, and then a family of the Levites on each side between the tribe and the tabernacle. And then he said, okay, number the Levites. Number all the Levites 1 year, men 1 year and older. They came up with 22,000. Then God said, well, I want you to number the firstborn of all 12 tribes. They came out with 22,273. All right, in case any of you are accountants. So there was 273 difference. There was more normal tribes than there were the priestly tribe. And God said, okay, it's going to cost you 5 shekels. Let's say it's going to cost you $5 a head. Okay, for those 273, so they had to be redeemed because there were more of them than there were of the priestly tribe. And then in Numbers 13, starting with verse 1, it says, And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Send out for yourself men so that they may spy out the land of Canaan, which I am going to give to the sons of Israel. You shall send a man from each of their father's tribes, every one a leader among them. So they weren't sending mamby-pamby people. They were sending the elite into the land to spy it out. So Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran at the command of the Lord, all of them men who were heads of the sons of Israel. And it said they went up and they spied out the land in verse 21 of chapters 13, from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehob to Labo Hamath. And when they had gone up into the Negev, they came to Hebron, where Ahiman and these other guys, the descendants of the Anak, were. And so they came to the valley of Eshcol, and there they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes. And they carried it on a pole between 2 men. That was a honking piece of grape, huh? And they also carried some pomegranates and figs back with them. And then in verse 25, and when they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days, they proceeded to come to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh, and they brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. Thus they said, we went into the land where you sent us, and it certainly does flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Nevertheless, but, the people who live in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large, and moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there, which are the giants. And Amalek is living in the land of the Negev, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites are living in the hill country, and the Canaanites are living by the sea and by the side of the Jordan. And then Caleb quieted the people. He had to quiet them because of this report. Okay? They were getting into an uproar. And he said, listen, we should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we shall surely overcome it. Okay? But they don't listen. They don't listen, and they decide they want to stone Aaron, Moses, Caleb, and Joshua. And when they got to that point, it said Moses and Aaron in 14, Numbers 14. Moses and Aaron fell on their face in the presence of the assembly of the congregation, and Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, of those who had spied out the land, they tore their clothes, and they spoke to the congregation and said, the land which we passed through is to spy out is an exceedingly good land, for they will be our prey. Their protection has been removed, and the Lord is with us. Don't fear them. But all the congregation said to stone them with stones. And then the glory of the Lord appeared in the tent of meetings. It's kind of like God's going to put an end to this. He comes down. You know, the people don't like this. And so the Lord says, how much longer do I have to put up with you? Yeah, he's done all these things. And God says to Moses, how long will these people spurn me? This is 14, verse 11. And how long will they not believe me? Despite all the signs which I have performed in their midst, I will smite them with pestilence and dispossess them, and I will make you into a nation greater and mightier than they. God speaking to Moses says, hey, I'm going to do away with these people, and I'm going to make you an even greater nation. You know, Moses had the opportunity right there to say, wow, God, you know, I kind of understand, you're God, yeah, I don't know if I'd put up with these people as much as you have too. So, God, I'll be the best that I can. But Moses said, God, the Egyptians know that you brought these people out. They know that you wanted them to come out and bring everything, and they were going to be your people, and you bring them out here, and now you say you're going to kill them off? That's not going to look good. See, this is Moses speaking to God. And so God says in verse 20 of 14, I have pardoned them according to your word. But indeed, as I live, all the earth will be filled with the glory of the Lord. Surely all the men who have seen my glory and my signs, which I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, yet have put me to the test these 10 times, and have not listened to my voice, shall by no means see the land which I swore their fathers. Nor shall any of those who spurn me see it. But my servant Caleb, because he has had a different spirit and followed me fully, I will bring into the land which he entered, and his descendants shall take possession. So God says, okay, all right, Moses, I'm going to listen to you. I won't do away with them, but here's what I'm going to do. Anybody 20 and over have to die off, and they will have to wander for 40 years until they do die off before I let their children go into the promised land. The children that they were afraid would be swallowed up by all these mean people that live in the land. He says the only two people out of you who will make it or Joshua and Caleb. So 10 times they don't do what God wanted them to do. Like a song we sometimes sing, how can this be? How can it be? How can they 10 times in 2 years test God to the point? What's going on? What's happening? Oh, and by the way, I just want you to know, in verse 36 of chapter 14, it says, as for the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land and who returned and made all the congregation grumble against him by bringing out a bad report concerning the land, died by a plague before the Lord that very day. We got 10. You know, God is not a Democrat. I know that's, you know, he is not for democracy. Because you see, democracy means mob rule. That's why America is not a democratic nation. It's a republic, which means that we elect people to represent us in Congress. And they make the laws, not the people. This is what is hard to understand about the election we just had, because we have an electoral college who actually elect the president. In most cases, they don't have to vote along the party line. Okay? Each state has a certain number of delegates, and they have for the most part, the same number of Republican electors as they do Democratic, and depending on the way the state goes, that party's electors are put in place for the Electoral College election. Okay? So when President Trump got the majority of the Electoral College, that's why he was considered president over Miss Clinton, who did not get enough Electoral College votes. Matter of fact, they even thought they were going to be tied. She didn't get the number of votes, but she won the popular vote. But the popular vote is a mob rule system. And so that's why we have a different system. Now, I got to take a break. Oh, sorry. So let's take this break, and I'll be right back.